Okay, go ahead and open up high-low. We're going to look at it just real quick. I'm going to increase the size so you guys can see it. And we're going to kind of walk through. So let's open it up in our browser. JavaScript code. High-low. There we go. I'm going to fit everything in the screen there. Yep. Okay, so last time we worked, we had if we hit play, it picks a card. We guess low. Hey, I got it right. It's got correct, incorrect. If I click retry, it picks a new card and high and oh, bad. So it now logs correct and incorrect, albeit rather ugly. Anyone that's had web development could walk through and make that look a little prettier. But for right now, I just wanted it there to show us what's going on. So let's do, what I want to do today is I want to do a little recap about what we've learned, the specific pieces, and then I'm going to give you guys some homework to do over break. That homework will be challenging, but it depends what level of challenge you want to take, how far you want to go, what grade you're going to get. So some of it will be relatively easy, some will be harder, some you'll have to think a little bit, so which will be good. So okay, so if we walk through our high-low, so if I go into my HTML, I'll give you the HTML file again for your homework so you don't have to create your HTML. Always feel free to modify it if you think you can do it without breaking things, and feel free to add style sheets, things like that, if you're familiar with that or you want to learn about that. Okay, so we got our body, our HTML, we got our play button. So when we start the program, first thing is our play button that interacts. So in that play button, we've got our call for our function. On click equals play. So we call the play function. That's the only place we call the function from our, or no, that's wrong, that's incorrect. We also call a function on click for our guess low and our guess high. So 3 places we call a function, but so this is a place we call a function. So that uses our script tag. Usually actually the script should be after all the HTML. It should be just before the close of the body because we want the HTML to load first before the script does if it has to interact at all. Because we don't interact right away, it doesn't matter on this one, but on the next one, the script will be at the end because it'll interact. So, okay, so you click the play button. So it's looking for our script high-low.js. And so here's our function play. So on the play, it goes in, it sets the card number to a draw card. So it calls draw card, another function. Draw card sets a random number between 1 and 13 and it returns it. So our functions have the capability of doing a return to pass back information. If we pass back information, we set it equal to something. If we call a function, let's see if we got another one down here. If we call a function that we do not pass information to, I thought we had one. Maybe we do not. Oh, reset. Here's reset. We call the reset function, but we don't pass any information back, so we don't have anything to take that return, so we don't worry about it. So if you have a returning function, you want the function to pass something back, then you need to have that return at the end. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? Everyone understand functions? So functions are designed that way. Okay, so our play function draws a card, comes back, sets card 1 to that number. Then it calls another function called display card. And this time it passes an operator. This is called an operator with it. So it passes what we set for card 1 into that function. So if we go to our display card, we got our display card here, but we also have inside parentheses a variable. That variable doesn't have to be X, it can be anything. We could call it card passed or something like that if we wanted to instead. And that sets that to it. Now, you can use that variable in the function, but sometimes it's best to set that to another variable so that things don't get confusing. So that's what we do. And so it does all that, and it returns at the end card dis, or our display card, which was 1 through 10, Joker, King, Jack, Queen, King, and then we have Joker as default. Anyone remember why we set a default as Joker? When will Joker appear? Yeah, when it doesn't work. When we get a number that isn't 1 through 13, maybe it wasn't an integer or something like that, then it'll do it. That's our way of saying, hey, something's broken. So that's good. In this we used, or here, so that's functions. So functions can return stuff. If they're returning something, you have to set it equal to a variable. Functions can pass parameters. If you put that in the parentheses on the function call, you can pass a parameter. Now that parameter can be a variable. I could pass a number in the parameter if I wanted. I could pass text in the parameter if I wanted, if I always wanted to pass that, but it doesn't make a lot of sense in a function to do that. Okay. So then we got that. So that's the function. Now the functions use variables. What do we do to assign our variables? What's the command we use to assign variables? Let. So we use let to assign our variables. We haven't really gotten into constants or anything like that yet. That'll happen later. Here I just assign a variable. I say there's a variable called card1, but I don't assign it to anything yet. So it doesn't know what type it is, what's going to be in there, anything. I just set that. These are called global variables. Why did I call them global variables? Anyone remember? Where can they be used? Global variables can be used anywhere. So these global variables can be used anywhere on this JavaScript page. So it can be used outside, it can be used inside of a function. If we look at function draw card here, we set a variable called random. That random variable can only be used in that function. We can't call random variable in this. We can't find out what random is in this function. It doesn't exist for that function. We'll get undefined. So this variable only exists in this function. These variables exist outside the function, so they can be used by all functions. Thus, they're called global variables. Okay, then we do some logic. We do some if then else's or if else's. So here we're comparing if the card was, if we guessed right. We did an if else logic. So you guys, I think, got if else logics. Anything you have, you have the logic here. What you're going to do, you're going to have your greater than, you can have your less than, you can have your equal. If you do equal, what do you have to use? Anyone remember that? That one's a little tricky. Double equals. So if you do equals, you have to use double equals. So okay. And then we introduced this one, a thing called switch case. So this is where you want to compare a variable. It can be a number of different things, and you want to do something different for each one of those. Instead of saying if card num equals 1, do this. Else if card number equals 2, do this. Else if card number equals, so this can really speed things up for you. So the switch in the case. So you can use all of these. You're relatively familiar with them. And going forward, we got our document. Okay, now we got what does document get element by ID? What does that do? Anyone know? What does document get element by ID do, or what does it relate to? Yes, Silas.
It's getting the ID from the HTML.
Right, you're correct. It gets the ID from the HTML. So it says, look in the HTML, look for an ID num1. So if we go back to our HTML, say, where's our ID? Here's our class num1. So it says, hey, I'm going to do something with this div tag labeled ID num1. Then we go back into here, and I think I jumped between two different ones. Okay. So where to go? Oh, right here. So it said document get element by ID num1. So it says grab that tag. And then in it, I'm going to say inner.html. So it's going to put stuff inside that tag, in between the opening div tag and the closing div tag. And it'll put whatever I put in here. So in this case, I put a space, it looks like, or nothing. Probably null. Yeah, nothing. But here I set it, inner.html, to whatever I have for display 1, that variable. So this is how you target different parts of the HTML. You're going to be targeting different parts of the HTML in your homework. So we want to make sure that you got that. Okay, let's see, is there anything else we covered I want to make sure we got? Well, you got inner.html, which targets the tag and puts it inside the tag. You've got value. Do we do dot value here? A dot value is usually for an input tag. Let's see if we got an input tag real quick. I don't know that we do. No, we don't on this one. You'll have input tags here. I'll just go to your thing. You have input tags, and the value of that input tag will be whatever was the text inside of that tag. We'll talk about that in a second. So we can target .innerHTML.value, and then we also targeted .style. That targets the style sheet. Now, if you're not super familiar with the style sheets, don't worry about it. You don't have to know the style sheets that well. If you get more intimate with HTML or with JavaScript, you'll want to get to know style sheets in HTML. But you're in the homework, you're gonna have a place where you have to change the background color of something, and I give you a example line of code so that you've got that if you need it. So, okay. So that's that. That's that. Anything else I'm missing that we've gotten? Oh, just this little thing that we just introduced. I didn't say a lot about it. Here it says correct plus plus. What does correct plus plus do? Yeah. It adds 1 to the correct variable. So it says, so instead of writing correct equals correct plus 1, which will work as well, you can do correct plus plus. You can also do correct minus minus. You can subtract 1 from the variable doing it that way. Or you can write out longhand. So we could have written this out longhand. Correct equals correct plus 1. That would have worked as well. So it's the same thing. It's just a shorter way of doing it. Seems like we're always incrementing or decrementing a lot of things in there. So we did that. We didn't do any for loops yet, I don't believe. Does that sound familiar? For loops? No. We'll do that when we get back together. So that being said, I'm going to give you your homework file and we're going to take a look at it. So, okay, open up your test.html and test.js and let's take a look at it. Go ahead, first of all, open HTML in here and you'll see in your browser window that we have what we're working on. Basically, we're making a test, an online test. Oops, I added some stuff there. Student's going to enter their name, enter the answers for each one of these objects, and click grade. When they click grade, it's going to change the background of the input boxes here to the color, one color for right, one color for wrong. Usually green, right, wrong, red, but your choice. Then you're going to report your grade is blank out of 10, so you're going to report the number right here. You're going to replace this question mark with the number right. Then you're going to report a percent right, so you're going to replace this question mark with the percent right, and you're going to give it a grade, grade A through F based on the percentage. Okay, if we go back to our code here, so the grading on this project is listed here. 75% C is if it's completed, but it has a JavaScript error. Won't run, it breaks. You just can't find that error. You can still turn on that code and get a C, 75%. If it works, but parts are incorrectly, so if you get no JavaScript errors, but it works, but some of it doesn't work right, that's a B. If everything works except for question number 10, question number 10 is harder than it looks, you'll get an A, 95%. If you can get question number 10 to work to tell whether question number 10 is right or wrong, you will get 100%. Changing the background color, I gave you some code right here that should give you an example of how to change the background color on the input tags. So on here we've got all our input tags, everything set with IDs so that you can find it. Go back and forth. If you have any questions on this, feel free to email me at mrc@mrcscience.com. You can use Google. When you guys Google, make sure you put JavaScript first so you know what you're Googling. So like JavaScript, what's the format for a case? Or JavaScript, how do I change the background color on this? Or things like that. But always start with JavaScript so that you know you'll get what you're looking for. Otherwise, you can get all kinds of weird stuff. So, okay, I think that about covers it. Again, email me if you have any questions. Thanks.